I'm Donald Dunbar, and this video has been funded by the Farm Advisory Service Scotland, and it's about growing rye in Scotland. Today I'm in the Scottish borders. I'm standing in a field of winter rye, and you can already see that it is several growth stages ahead of winter barley or winter wheat. I'm going to be interviewing Bill Thomson to find out what they find useful in growing rye and why it's become part of their arable rotation. There is also a Farm Advisory Service publication about growing rye in Scotland, and this can be found in the video description along with some other information. Cereal crops in Scotland are dominated by barley, winter wheat and, to a lesser extent, oats. But in recent years, rye has started to gain a foothold. I'm old enough to remember forage rye being grown by dairy farmers for an early spring bite or to be made into silage. In recent years, rye has re-emerged to be used for feedstock in biogas, for livestock feeding, but also to be taken to grain.
I'm Bill Thomson. I work for Iona Management Services. We run the portfolio for Iona Capital throughout Britain, as well as external plants. Predominantly I'm on the farming side. I head that division on producing energy crops, where we can produce it in-house or whether we're buying it per tonne or as a standing crop. We produce biogas through the locally cropped sourced feedstock. Very similar to how you would feed a herd for the dairy herd or for the fattening cattle and things there. It's a process that's sort of going into, instead of real cows, it's going into a concrete cow. Everything in the stomach's the same as it is with a cow, it's just slightly bigger. And we're feeding the crops into that twice a day. And then instead of producing milk or producing live weight gain, we are capturing the methane gas, cleaning it up and putting it into the grid as methane gas into the national network. The rye crop in Scotland was the only real option for producing as much methane per hectare, along with the farmers getting the yield that they're expecting. It is our best crop from a balance sheet point of view, but then also from a gas point of view. Our gas in our rye is higher than it is in traditional other whole crops, and then with the lower growing costs fitting into farming arable rotations, it just becomes, on paper as well as in practical, a fantastic crop. So in Scotland, we're very limited on what we can grow for biogas and to get the yield per hectare. England's slightly different, but certainly sort of for our cropping here, it is the ideal one with ticking all the boxes, as it were, from both the AD plant, but then also the grower. Down in England, where they've got the option of maize is a crop that you're harvesting later on in the year, so it's harder to fit in a bad rotational, bad weather window. So it's a crop that's becoming more and more popular down south on our plants, as well from our point of view that we've got less risk, as well as the farmer's got less risk in actually harvesting it in the correct dry matter plus conditions, and then being able to get wheat into the rotation after as well. I always like to call the rye, without using buzzwords, a rotation extension and things there. It's not a break crop. On takel front, it's very low, so you can grow it a few years in a row, but it's also in the arable rotation up in Scotland, you're also getting an early entry into oilseed rape, which is crucial. If we grow barley's 2 weeks earlier than the rye. However, the yield is more variable, where the rye on a bad year, we're still going to get a decent tonnage per hectare, where on a bad year of barley, the straw is a lot less. So the yield is there's a yield penalty. So from a methane content point of view, from the different crops that we feed in, rye, we're sitting at 126 cubes of methane per tonne. With grass, we're at 72. With beet, we're around about the 72 mark as well. With other whole crops, barley, wheat, everything there with the higher growing costs, we're 100 cubes of methane per tonne, as well as maize. Rye is not an expensive crop to grow. It's relatively low N requirement, and then its spray program being fairly simple and mainly growth reg related, it is a cheaper crop to grow rather than other whole crops. A typical nitrogen application rate, we're looking with using our liquid digestate as part of it, we work on 150 kilos of actual N per hectare. We harvest rye predominantly beginning of July. Last year, with the weather pattern being slightly different, it was the end of June we started. But random fact on that is that we harvest it in Shropshire, North Yorkshire and Scotland, and it ripens about the same time with the different in the same season. Harvesting for the crop, it's down to timings, so that can be stressful because we're trying to do everything in the perfect dry matter along with machinery and the weather. Because that's so crucial, that becomes a stressful thing. We've got a small window for it. If we miss that window, we're taking it to grain, and that's as simple as that. From a clamping point of view, yes, it's just like every other whole crop to clamp. Unlike grass, you can step grass. With rye, you just need you need a gradual ramp on it. Again, with the chop lengths we're going for, makes it a wee bit more challenging, but it is just like any other whole crop. So we do like to put an additive on it. Certainly for here, we are judged by what we're bringing in through the weighbridge, and then we've got a further weighbridge when we feed it in. So with the additive, we're looking to control the dry matter A in the clamp, but then we're also looking to reduce our clamp losses, which, yes, our clamp losses are getting captured, but we are not measuring our clamp losses. So an additive, though an extra expense, we prove it with our data. The digestate predominantly, using the phrase of the AD circle, the digestate should be going on to our feedstock suppliers, the land that the digestate is coming from. This is ensuring crop production as well as ensuring sort of feedstock security there. Just rough sum, last year with the huge NP and K prices, using digestate even with a spreading charge would have saved us £10 a tonne, £10 a whole crop tonne on costings rather than using bag fertiliser. If that had been used for wheat production, as it were, for grain wheat, the sum would have been £30. So the digestate, we put it into two categories, the N, and then we put in the P and K. The P and K, whenever we spread that, our availability is the same. So with all policies going forward, it is crucial that we're still allowed to be able to spread digestate in the back end, as it were, in the autumn there. So from our P and K values, however we spread it, that doesn't change. So with P, we're around about the 1 kilos cube and then available, and then with the K, we are 6 kilos a cube there. Now with the nitrogen element of it, it all comes down to how you spread it, and whether it's spread in the spring or in the autumn there. So with the autumn spreading, we're 1.7, 1.8 kilos of available N for the next year's, for the crop that you've sown, and then in the spring we're about 2.4. So it's the availability. Again, it's how you spread it, conditions, but you've got to work on spreading it as best possible, because that's huge figures even with the fertiliser price before the fertiliser price went.